Hi, I'm Michael Caju.
And I'm Adee Caju, and you're listening to the WAG podcast. This podcast is about health, wellness, and personal development.
Each episode is a short conversation between Adee and I on a single topic with actionable steps. We cover everything from food, mindset, fitness, and relationships.
We started WAG because of the way health and fitness changed our lives, so we hope to share a tool or two that helps you along your way. Okay, today we're talking about praise and how this practice of praising one another, most specifically me, has completely transformed our relationship in a lot of ways. I feel like maybe selfishly, I absolutely hold on to this practice, so much so that it was in the vows of our wedding, because it breathes life into our marriage. And I hope it's something that we do forever until we're old and gray and you're praising me for how wrinkly I am and how many laugh lines I have from all the years of joy that we had together. And I think that one of the things that has helped us learn why praise works so well in our marriage is from a book called The Way of the Superior Man, which is one of our favorite books by David Deida. And the book talks about how it's a lot about the masculine and feminine energies, not necessarily meaning male or female, but masculine and feminine being energies that we all have within us. I have both masculine and feminine energies, and you do as well. And the feminine energy grows on praise and affirmation, and the masculine energy grows with challenge. And when we read that book, it just kind of clicked for me as to why I love praise so much and I crave it. It also happens to be my number 2 love language, but your number 1 love language is words of affirmation. And it just praise doesn't necessarily have the same impact on you as it does for me, especially from our intimate partner. And I really specifically love getting praise from you as my partner. And we're going to talk about that today.
We're going to talk about our own experience of it, as well as some of the sources that we've gotten this belief from. And we truly believe that this is something, if you make it a regular practice in your relationship, you will feel more connected. You'll be in more of a constant state of gratitude. Your sex life will probably improve because your polarity will increase. One of you will be more in a masculine state, one of you in more of a feminine state, and that's great for your sex life.
Mm-hmm. It also, for me, gives me this feeling of safety, which I don't know if I can describe. It's really a specific kind of safety that comes with a feeling more so than I could potentially describe in words. But it's not that I doubt how you feel about me, but it's more a reminder of how you feel about me. And the constant reminder is oh yeah, you do love me. You didn't forget how amazing I am, or you do notice all those little things about me. So it's definitely why you should do it. It's one of my literal favorite things about our life.
Yeah, and I'm sure many couples can relate, we conceptually understand that we love each other more than any other human on the planet. And as we're going through our day-to-day life, it's easy to forget or just not be as present to that intensity of the feeling of love. And by praising one another, we get to feel that intensity way more often, and we get to feel way more connected. When we're not doing this, I tend to take Adee for granted more often, and it also leads to you feeling kind of disconnected and just wondering how I feel about you.
Yeah. I have heard from many women that they wish their husbands praised them more. I don't talk to many men about this, so there could be men out there that are feeling the same about their wives, or in any type of relationship. So you can interchange that as you please. For us and the women that I've spoken to, they just want to hear what it is that their husband loves about them very specifically, very often, and in as much detail as possible. So what are we even talking about? So our this started for us probably right at the beginning of our relationship. I happen to be somebody who has a tendency to be more upfront about the things that I want versus holding it in and not telling. And I was very clear at the beginning that I wanted to impress you, and I wanted to know exactly how I was impressing you, and I wanted praises from you. And so it became something in our relationship really quickly. And then maybe talk about how at the beginning it was a little bit more challenging.
In the beginning of our relationship, it was very clear that she wanted me to praise her more often. And it was hard because I just wasn't aware of it. Like it didn't pop up into my thoughts very often. And when it would, a lot of times I had this story running like that sounded something like, if I praise her about this thing, she's going to think she's better than me. Or there was some like competitive energy that prevented me from praising you.
Yeah. I also think you have a hard time sometimes praising yourself. We've done an episode on this. I don't remember the exact name of the episode, but there's this piece of you that had this belief that praise equaled bragging, which equaled the opposite of humility. And not praising yourself or not doing what you thought was bragging would therefore make you humble. And that we've learned isn't necessarily the case. And so you've gotten through this practice. I feel like you've gotten way better at praising yourself.
I think so. Yeah, by not acknowledging the ways that I kick ass, I thought it wasn't fair that you got to do that for yourself or that I should have to do that for you.
Yeah. And it just makes me feel amazing. It's turned into, honestly, like a kind of a running joke where Michael will go to some personal development seminar, or he'll do something where he's working on himself, or he leaves me for a couple days and I'm like, I only want to hear at least one breakthrough about all the ways that I'm amazing. Like it's just a running joke. And it's like so open now when it was really challenging at the beginning. Kind of like a point of tension that we had to work through. And so how we do this is one thing that we've done is, well, I mean, you could talk about it because you're really the doer. So talk about how to.
So I've tried many different things to make it a consistent practice, from setting reminders on my phone or my task management app to...
Which is hilarious. Actually, let me interrupt you. So we have a shared Google Calendar, and I remember seeing on his calendar praise Adee, and every day it would pass. And there would be no praise. And I would be like, he's forgotten. And it was just like, it was cute that he was trying to remember to praise me. And it was hilarious that he would put it on his calendar. And he remembers everything else on his calendar, but didn't remember to
every time. I would intentionally just look it over.
So he tried a bunch of things, but we're going to get to what actually stuck.
So I tried those. I also got her this little bitty, I don't know, this little like box. It looks like a wooden egg. And I would once a month or once every 2 months, I would take a piece of paper and I would write out like 50 little praises or affirmations or things that I was grateful for her. And I would cut them up into individual notes.
It looks like little fortune cookie,
little tiny
slips.
Fortune cookies. And then every 2 or 3 days, I would put 2 or 3 in there, and I would move the egg in front of her keyboard so that when she sat down to work, she would open those first. Honestly, that went really, really well. First off, it helped me to like batch the praises. So it wasn't as hard to like just remember. It also didn't feel as vulnerable to me to have to verbally give them to you every single day. I could just like, if I was in a great mood and like really loving on you, I could do 50 at once. So that worked really well. And most recently, I just became more clear that it's so silly for me to not make this important. I know how much life it breathes into you, like how amazing it makes you feel about us, how amazing it makes you feel in life in general, how much energy you get from it. And any story I have that is preventing me from just doing this all the time has to stop. And I made a commitment a couple weeks ago to just do this every single day when Adee wakes up. And I think I've only missed a couple days. And this has for sure been the most consistent I've ever been with verbal affirmations. And so a couple things that are working for me in relation to that. Number one is just making a commitment to doing it every single day. And then the second thing is just making it a habit that I'm like attaching to another thing that's going to happen automatically. I know she's going to wake up every single day, and the first time that I see her, that's just my habit. So by making it, like attaching it to something that's already going to happen, it's allowed me to be much more consistent with it.
Yeah. I love it. It's a great way to start your day.
So, and I want to say one more thing. So at first I thought that doing it this way was really like forced or contrived, and I kind of judged that. And what I've learned is that, you know, we have a similar belief about sex. There's this myth in our culture that all sex should be spontaneous and like just super exciting. And years ago, we decided for ourselves that that's kind of bullshit. In a long-term relationship, it's very unlikely that you're going to want to have spontaneous sex multiple times a week. And that is okay. That's natural. And it's totally reasonable and can be so sexy to like plan it and to make it a little bit contrived. And what I think I'm learning about praise and affirmations is very similar. It doesn't have to always be spontaneous. It's kind of like medicine for the relationship. And I can just build this habit into my life of forcing myself to praise Adee, knowing that I'm giving medicine to our relationship. Yeah. And when I give it to her, I take it really seriously. I try to
This is the key. Like this, if anyone is going to try this, this is what takes praise giving from basic and not fulfilling to just absolutely delicious. Because you could just keep it surface level and be
You're
like,
really pretty, or thanks for making me food yesterday.
Right. Or I love the way you smell, or I like your shirt. Like just keep it really basic and surface level. That wouldn't feel or land the same as what you're about to talk about.
Usually I'll take between 30 seconds and sometimes 5 minutes to like really think of something, because sometimes I'm not in like a state of gratitude, right? I'm having a regular day. Sometimes you're annoying me and you're pissing me off. And so I have to like, I have to really get myself in a state of gratitude to come up with something that I'm really grateful for. So there's like this mental part of me that's kind of getting myself in the position to do this genuinely. And then what I'm thinking about tactically is I want to say something that I think will really excite you, that will really excite her, that will really make her feel seen. You know, after knowing Adee for almost 6 years, or is it, yeah, something like 6 years, I know what matters most to her. I know the ways that she's trying to grow. I know the things that if I say them and I acknowledge them will have the biggest impact on her. And so I'm searching in my mind for something that she hasn't either heard in a while, or she's never heard from me, and B, it's something significant to her. Mm-hmm. And by doing this daily for a long time, she really feels like a different level of trust and safety in our relationship.
Yeah, for sure. And just to be clear, the times where I'm annoying you, he's not just praising me out of the blue in the moments of being annoyed with me. In those situations, I'm probably asking for a praise. And one of the ways that helps this actually happen is me asking for praises when I want them or when I feel like they would benefit me. And we've had an explicit conversation in our relationship many times where I'm allowed to ask for praises whenever I want them. And literally in the vows of our wedding, Michael said that he'll give me a praise every single day. And if he forgets, he will make up for lost time. And he's forgotten so many times that I have infinite praises. So sometimes if I'm really needing my cup full, I'll say I want two. and so in those moments when he's annoyed with me, maybe like intuitively, I'm like, can you give me a praise? And that takes you from being annoyed with me to being in gratitude with me. Maybe I'm just like feeling that energy, but we've agreed that I'm allowed to ask you and you're not allowed to say no. And I think rarely you've ever said no. That's when things are bad.
Or I'm just really, really tired.
Yeah, really, really tired, which I'll accept. I'll accept in those moments. And we've also made a commitment that you don't make me feel silly for asking.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a silly thing, it's like a real need for me, and it's a real desire. And so it might feel silly at the beginning to be like, hey, I want to praise right now, but it's like so common now.
Just try it.
It's just try it. It's so worth it. We do weird things all the time. And this is one of those weird things we did at the beginning that now just feels so normal. And when I talk to my friends about it, they're all like, I wish I could do that with my husband. So
if you make this a regular part of your communication and in your relationship, I really believe you can expect to feel so much more connected. As the praise giver, even, I think, like from my experience, what has stopped me in the past is I've felt like if I praise her, there's this part of me that is diminished in some way. And that's, we could have a much longer discussion about where that comes from in me. But what I've learned is that I feel exactly the opposite. I actually feel bigger. I feel more like a man. I feel like a better partner, like a better husband. I'm more proud of myself by talking about, why I'm proud of you. So that story is just a story. It's just a thought, an old belief that doesn't serve me. And so if you make this a regular practice in your relationship, I think you will feel very similarly. It feels amazing for both the person being praised and the person praising.
I love it. I hope that you guys do this.
And I know you love it.
I'm glad this episode exists, because if it ever gets off track, I'm going to make you listen to it all over again. But just as a closing statement, I do praise Michael often. He just doesn't have to ask for it. So it's not like he's over here deprived of praise, but we love it. We are praise junkies in this household. And I hope that you guys become praise junkies too. Thanks for joining us. Stay in touch by signing up for our newsletter at workingagainstgravity.com or on Instagram at workingagainstgravity.
And don't forget to subscribe to us on iTunes, leave us a 5-star review, and refer a friend. We'll be back next week with another episode. Talk to you then.